And just for the sake of clarity, I just want to say it finally. Escape Route to Financial Freedom is a book you can get from Jasper, and it's not available anywhere else. Ask Jasper. He can give you my information. I can send you one as well if you pay the postage. But rather, Jasper, I think you can help these people. Test all things. 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 21. You must test everything and hold firmly onto what is good. So God wants us to explore, and everybody has a basic need to be free. You can be also, and don't go for the pressure. There are ways to get to freedom, they say, but when you get there, you find the cupboard is bare, and God wants to bless you outright and absolutely. He doesn't want you to work too hard for it. He just wants you to be faithful there. So, but godliness with contentment is great gain. That's what 1 Timothy 6 verse 6 to 12 tells us. He says, for he brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world, but if we have food and clothing with these, we will be content. But those who desire to be rich fall into temptation. Now, I'm going to just hit on that one a bit. He says, those who desire to be rich fall into temptation. Not everybody succeeds in the desire. So it means the rich and the poor, everybody desiring to have more, fall into a temptation, says, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction, which is obviously the opposite which we're trying to achieve. For the love of money, it is not money, it's the love, the relationship you have with money, the longing, the greed for the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith, pierced themselves with many pangs, which means you could lose your faith, not only the money. And then Paul writes, he says to this young man, and he says, but as for you, O man of God, for flee these things, pursue righteousness, godliness, faith, love, steadfastness, gentleness, fight the good life, good fight of the faith. Take hold of the eternal life to which you were called and about which you were made a good confession in the presence of many witnesses. Now, in a nutshell, Paul writes to Timothy, who is a young man, an evangelist, and he says to him, certain things are more important than others. Yes, I understand you need money, but I want to warn you guys, and you must tell other people to tell them as well. The desire for more money could cause you to lose your faith, your eternal heritage, and as a matter of fact, you can dump yourself in a lot of trouble, which will lead to ruin and destruction, because he said the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Now, many years ago, after I wrote the book called Debt Trap or Debt Free, I ventured out and said, if the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, debt is the substance that feeds the roots, which means it makes it possible to do all kinds of things which you shouldn't have done in the first place. And then just the last verse here in Matthew, or the last section here in Matthew 6, verse 19 to 24. This is Jesus saying, do not lay up for yourselves. I will come to the practical part just now. Don't worry, I'm not preaching. But we have already missed something there too. He says, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth. Remember, we're talking about the creator of the universe talking to you and me. He says, don't do this where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So if you have a lot of money, if you are rich, your eye will always be on the prize. It will always be on the treasure. So be careful. He says the eye is the lamp of the body. He's talking about the eye, and he's not talking about your physical eye. He says, I'm talking about your mind's eye. You have a mind vision. You can see things in your spiritual and your imaginary eye. He says, if the eye is wrong, if your approach is wrong, if you see things wrong through the wrong eyes, He says, so if your eye is healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, you will be blind because your body will be in darkness. It says, if then the light in you is darkness, how great is the darkness? Jesus really knew how to say things. He said a wonderful thing. He said, the way you think, that's what that verse means. The way you think determines how you act, because your mind is where you do the thinking. So he needs to reset our minds. He says, no one can serve two masters, for either you will hate the one, love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve two masters, God and money. So that is just to introduce you to this new thought pattern of mine. Chapter 23 of my management book, which we have discussed before, I've just touched on it, but now we're discussing the book Escape Route to Financial Freedom. And I'm just going to read from you what it says there. It says, there are many professed roads to financial freedom, but they normally have two deficiencies in common. They put all the pressure on you because you got to actually now take the chance, you got to perform. And then he says, well, let's see what happens when you put the money on the market or in the banks or wherever, in the financial institutions. Now, I think the main thing here is, you know the idiom or the saying, all roads lead to Rome. Now, there was a time when it was true. Now it's not quite true anymore. But all roads do not lead to financial freedom. You have to test them, check them out, see whether they're true, see whether they got a foundation which is on Jesus Christ. Now, I've discovered an alternative route, and the alternative route is, in a long story short, it is the escape route. You can go and read what you see there, or you can go and read the books that we've already introduced you to. But I think the most important thing is your destination is financial freedom. It's about an integrated process. It's going to gradually lead you there. It's not going to be the way that I'm going to introduce you tonight is based on 13 steps. They are listed below, and we're going to talk about them a few minutes in each case. But I think the groundwork or the foundation of what I'm telling you is, first of all, you're going to have a book which you can collect from Jasper or get him to get it to you, send him a postage, which I've donated. I've donated quite a few to him. So please get access to the book. It's for free. I haven't got it on ebook, otherwise you would have had it there, but we will donate some hard copies. Now, you must, first of all, if you ever want to reach financial freedom, and don't forget what somebody asked, he asked J.D. Rockefeller, how much is enough? J.D. Rockefeller, the richest man with old money, I think, other than Job of the Bible, who was the richest man in the East. J.D. Rockefeller, in old money terms, he was the richest, and he said, just a little bit more. He was very wise, because we all say, give me a lot more, but he means just a little bit more, because we don't want to be sounding like we're greedy. So the 13 steps to financial freedom will take you all the way to where I find myself today. I am still enjoying life. I'm 70 years. I'm enjoying my work. I'm a pastor. I do seminars. I'm an auditor. I'm an accountant. I write books. I'm a family man. God is great. But you must start with the first step. And this is where you must establish who your financial provider is. If you are the financial provider, you will forever hold on to that stress. The stress won't go away because it's all dependent on you. It's self-supporting. If you think it is your banker, you have to borrow money from them all the time, well, good luck. The interest rates will remind you that it's not yours. And then you'll pay the same house off about 3 or 4 times before it becomes yours. If there is no increase in the value of the property like in the 1990s, and now it's also a bit depressed. But there was a time when you could double or treble your money within a few years if you bought at the right time. So property is nice, dollars are nice, gold is nice, everything is nice, but you must just get in at the lower level. So you must establish who's your provider. If it is you, if it's your banker, or if it's your employer, well, wait for your next raise, beg and kneel, but it is not correct, because God is your financial provider. And if you understand that God is the one who gave you the health and all the other wonderful qualities to earn money, so you can look after yourself, to make a living and have a subsistence, then you got the answer. Because in that case, whether it's 10 Rand or 50 Rand or 100 Rand you need to get to your next meal, and you realize God is the one who put that money in your pocket and gave you the purchasing power, then you're on base one. I think you can only win from there. So establish who your financial provider is. If it is God, all pressures off you, and you start and you keep on praying, Our Father, which are in heaven. And then you say, give us today our daily bread, and you thank him for what he gave you the previous day. Second point, freedom originates in the mind. So you have to reset your mind. It's the way you think. Jesus said, it's the lamp. If the lamp doesn't work, then you're in darkness. I'm sitting in darkness here. We have load shedding. I've got a small lamp showing on the other side there of the room. So just to make you, aware I'm still sitting here. Freedom originates in the mind. And this is where your thinking takes place. I believe regeneration happens in the heart. God speaks to you. You give your heart to him. You can give your mind as well, but the mind will follow because it becomes a reflection of what happens in your heart. And then he resets your mind. You reset your mind. You start thinking. I can imagine, there's a whole book about this. These are chapters, but I'm just giving you a brief outline of what the 13 steps are that we're referring to. Freedom is not a place out there. It's in here. Freedom is in your heart and in your mind and in your spirit. So if you think right, everything will become right, because you will understand contentment, you will understand faith, you will understand praying, and also saying thank you for the bread on your table. Point 3 is an interesting one. You've got to deal with your fears. No amount of money will ever still all your fears, because you can have millions and still worry that you could lose it all in one throw. Like in 1987 and in 2008, when we had these big crashes, get 20 or 40% wiped off in one day. So if your trust and if you believe your provider is your banking account or your investments, well, good luck. If you understand that it's God who gives you all this, and you have the light inside you, you think right, and then you feel right, and things will work out to the better, because you believe in Romans 8:28, which says everything works to the good for those that love him. Dealing with your fears is an important one, because we sometimes get so scared because we look at fear as if it is death. Fear is not death, it's a shadow of death. I expand that in chapter 3. Fear is the shadow of death. This is where we are terrorized, where the devil and the world and even people out there, they scare our wits away. You've got to deal with those fears. You've got to actually sit down with God and make him understand that you have problems in this area. And I believe John says in chapter 4, he says, love conquers fear. He says, love drives all fear out. So I'm hitting the same spot all the time. I'm talking about the foundation. I'm talking about Jesus. I'm talking about God. I'm talking about the Holy Spirit. I'm talking about the one that we call our God, the source of your life, the source of your income, and all the other resources. Determine, number 4, the purpose of money, not your life. This time we talk about the purpose of your money. Money is there to buy things, not value. You can't use money to buy value. You can even try and buy yourself an education, and they catch you out with that if it's a false certificate. But you can in fact, get an education by spending money on yourself and getting an education. So use money properly. Don't buy it to brag with what you got and all your assets and what you're driving and where you're staying, because I call it image, which you can spell I''MAGE. It's all about the image. I'm a doctor, I'm a rich man, and I'm a very wealthy person, and so on. Get rid of the image. Galatians 2 verse 20 gives us a very good clue how to do that. Because Paul says to the Galatians, he says, it is no longer I that liveth, but Christ that liveth in me. So I'm talking consistently and congruently about Jesus, about the Word of God, about the lifestyle you follow. And then, number 5, determine your own true value. You always, everybody does, underestimate their values, except the people with the billions. Because if you undervalue yourself, it will actually reflect in the way you talk, the way you behave, the way you spend money for that matter, or borrow money for that matter to increase your value. So determine your own value by looking at who you are, how wonderfully God has made you, that it costs 200,000 or 300,000 rand to replace a valve in your heart, and you can't even afford that. So you are wonderfully made. You're worth much more than $2.69, which is what they say it costs, what your elements in your body is worth, and that's probably about 30 rand or something. No, it's not going to happen that way. So you are your most valuable asset. Look at yourselves, look at your esteem through the eyes of God and see what talents He's given you. So remember, I'm talking about money stuff, because we've got to see what money can buy, and we can see what it can't buy. You've got value inside of you. Touching on number 6 quickly, determine the purpose of your life. I've talked about that before, and you've read books about it. Purpose for me stands for pleasing God, P. The U stands for you are unique, and it's universal concept. You've got to have a purpose, but every item in this letter, or every letter in this word, should revolve around your purpose, and that purpose should be pleasing God. You are unique. It's a universal fact. You've got to do resource management. That's what the R stands for. Resource management. You got to do planning. Remember, who's the owner? God is the owner. You are the steward, and it's all about eternity. It's about eternal values. I can say a lot about that. It's all in the book. Number 7 is my favorite. Becoming detached. I introduced the chapter by saying, ask God to take you away from your possessions before your possessions are taken away from you. So that is the acid test. You've got to say goodbye to things. Now, wait a minute, Danie, you're talking different things now. We're talking financial freedom. I told you initially it's about you becoming free. So the first word I learned in Greek when I was at theological college is the word in Greek which is pronounced luor, and we use the word luor, which means to be loosened. We had different tenses. Greek has got 27 different tenses, but it's luor, lues, lue, luomen, which means I release, you release, and we all release. And so it went on. That was the first word, but I realized that is the key to life, to be loosened from these things that hold us back, so you're not free. So ask God to release you from these things, those investments, watching the news every time, going onto your computer or your iPad or the iPhone or whatever template you have to see what the gold price is, tells me that your interest is maybe more there than what I do that as well. But you mustn't look there every 5 minutes, because then Jesus said where your treasure is, your heart will also be. And it will probably not be good for your heart to see how it goes up and down now. Number 8, simplify your life. I think we have said a lot about that. You've got to start with your money by simplifying your money. Now I'm getting to the hard stuff. The first part is quite difficult, because you've got to get your mind right. You've got to start thinking about freedom. And remember, you can be free outside the prison doors. You can be a Christian. You can be a wonderful, all kinds of things. You could be a talented guy. You could be walking around freely outside. You could swim and all these things. But if you're not financially free, you will never feel like you're free. I'm telling you what I know and what I've seen and what people have actually testified. If you can be spiritually free, but if you're financially not free, you will always feel there's something missing. And this is why I'm saying it's so important that you get your mind right, become contented, become detached, simplify your life, start giving things away instead of asking for more. You got to know the money rules. I've got a book out there on the ebooks, on my profile there, Money Rules. It's 30 Rand or something like that, $1 or $2. Money Rules is an absolute treasure about what the rules are. And I'm saying you must understand the money rules, and not, you've got to actually respect the money rules. Otherwise, money will always rule over you. Control your finances. Number 10, control your finances by controlling your desires. Do not go and buy everything your eyes see, because John says this is where it goes wrong. We get tempted through our eyes and what we hear and feel and so on. So control your finances by desire control. Manage your desires. I once found out the hard way. I was, many years ago, I think it's probably 1990s, I went to the Rand Easter show, and we were just walking around there, and somebody pulled me and said, come and sit in this health chair, which cost a lot of, those days cost 6,000 rand. Now that was a lot of money there. And of course I fell for the trap. I sat on the thing, they switched it on. It gave me some heat, and it sort of vibrated, and I thought, gee, this is wonderful. I must have this. So don't let anybody get you to sit down and feel or see or think, things that you don't need. Be very careful. Strive to become debt-free, and then you live debt-free. It's the most wonderful time of your life, and it's the best way to live. Get out of debt. I wrote a book about debt trap or debt-free. It will cost you your life if you don't do it. It might actually be more than your life. It might be your loved ones, because eventually debt can ruin you. And then set yourself realistic financial goals. Be realistic about your plans and your dreams. I once wrote a book, which is not available, Finances is die vrou in haar drome. Women, finances and their dreams. And I always said, I didn't say dream on, but I sometimes refer to that, and I said, you've got to dream realistically. I know some of us think that, we've got unlimited resources. We don't even have unlimited years. We haven't even got unlimited hours in a day. So I'm limited. And maybe some people out there can go without sleep. I do need it. I do need money. Money is right up there with oxygen. We are limited, but we've got to manage what we have in such a way that it goes all the way, and we ask God to multiply our bread by being obedient and applying His financial principles. So set yourself realistic goals that you can achieve in your lifetime. And if in the case with Jasper's gig, if you want to do the generational route, go for it. The problem is you have to find your sweet spot in your life, in your goals. Whatever happens after that is somebody else's dream, which they can obviously dream and achieve. Now let me close with a 13th step, which will take you all the way to your financial freedom. And that is to plan to die empty. Now, Stephen Covey has written a book called Seven Steps to Financial Freedom. Was it 9 steps? I can't remember. I think Susie Orman wrote 9, and Nita wrote 7 Steps to Financial Freedom. I think the main thing we must understand is we have to understand that where we're starting from. So always remember where you're starting on the one side, but remember where you are heading. What is your goal? So ask yourself always, begin with the end in mind. You must know where you are, and you must know what the goals are you set for yourself, financial and other dreams, other goals. So you work towards them. You test, and I'm just going back on what I've said earlier tonight. You test whether you're doing the right thing. Talk to people. Get yourself some people with wisdom. Speak to them, not only people who charge you money or tell you how to make money. Talk with wise elder people, maybe or family or people that you respect, and find out what their secrets are to life. Maybe they are happy without money. Maybe they're happy with money. I know a lot of people who have money, but they're not happy. So ask God to give you wisdom and all the other things, health and so on, and then the finances will follow it all by itself. Plan to die empty means you plan to share, and it's not about the money only. Plan to dream your dreams, but then at the end of the day, plan to die empty. so that you use every opportunity. It's not about the dying. The focus is not on dying. The focus is on sharing, caring, giving, and just sharing not only your money, but your whole life with people in such a way that they see what your testimony is all about. And I've already told you I've used the word testimony, and I've put an E and an E between the N and the Y at the end. And then it talks about money. So let people see how your money testifies about your life, who you are, what your secrets are. Maybe you never write a book. Maybe you never sing a song. Maybe you don't even become rich, but maybe you are rich because your treasure is in heaven. And I'm saying to you, I don't want to be a hypocrite and say to you, well, you know, I'm battling from one day to the other, because that will be sabotaging my own testament. God has been so good to me. I've got stuff, but the stuff is not going to be the things that make me happy. It's nice to have the things that money can buy, but it's more important to sit down once in a while and to say thank you to God for the things that money can't buy. So enjoy your money. It's the fruit of your labor. Strive to earn more and give more, and then ask God to show you the way. So, you know, Edward de Bono said something. He's not in the Bible. He's the guy who wrote the book. He's the guy who gets credited with lateral thinking. He's the father of lateral thinking. And he said, once we reach the bread line, and you know, I mean, you're not there tonight. You have got enough bread on your table. You're not hungry. You've got clothes. You've got something to travel with. You've got a job maybe. But as long as you've got food tonight, he basically says, once we actually reach the bread line, we are bullied by opportunities. And I couldn't say it better. You are bullied by opportunities, how to make more money by putting this. But God doesn't want us to gamble. He wants us to ask him to give us enough for this day. And maybe we can actually reach out and do what the ant does, because God also gave us that wisdom. Set aside something for the old days, and, you know, do save and do investments. But remember, investments are the savings that are brought about. I'm saying it slowly. Investments are the savings that are brought about by you spending less than what you earn, and incrementally setting it aside, accumulating, asking God's blessing on it. And you will find that he will break the bread. He will multiply the bread to the point that you will become financially free. But you don't have to wait for a date or a time or a place or an amount so that you can become independent from God, because you must always be dependent on your sole provider, which I talked about in the first chapter. If you recognize him as the sole provider, you are just the steward and the manager of his finances and his funds that he puts in your life that you got to manage. Then you found the secret of life, and then life becomes easy. And God bless you as you test these steps and see how well they are laid out. This is my financial philosophy. I stay away from debt. There was a time we wrote the book, we discovered it, we documented it, and it works. Stay away, and once you're out of debt, stay there. But always buy what you can afford, not what other people think you should drive and where you should stay. You stay where you can afford, not where other people or your image takes you. God bless you.